Love shouldn't cost you your self-respect. When you care deeply for someone, it's easy to blur the lines between love and self-sacrifice. But here's the harsh truth. The moment you start losing pieces of yourself to keep someone else whole, you're not in love, you're in trouble. Too often, we romanticize sacrifice, thinking it's a necessary ingredient for lasting love. But in reality, sacrificing too much can slowly poison the relationship you're trying to protect. So today, we're breaking it down. These are 7 things you should never do for a man, no matter how much you love him. And trust me, #5 is the silent killer of happiness, and knowing it could save you years of heartbreak, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Hey ladies! Speech balloon. Let's be real for a second. If you've ever fallen head over heels for someone, you know how the lines start to blur. One minute, you're an independent, confident woman, and the next, you're overthinking your every move, walking on eggshells, and wondering if you're too much or not enough. Sound familiar? It's natural to want to nurture a relationship. But here's where many women fall into a dangerous trap. Doing so much for a man that you slowly start disappearing. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the 7 things you should never, ever do for a man, even if your heart tells you he's the one. This isn't just advice from the internet. It's rooted in psychology, real-life stories, and relationship research from the experts. Because true love doesn't ask you to shrink, it asks you to grow. So go ahead, grab a notebook, grab a coffee, and most importantly, grab your power back. Let's get into it. Fire number 1. Never change who you are. Let's start with one of the most common and most dangerous traps. Changing yourself to become his dream girl. Maybe he says he's not into loud girls, so you stop laughing with your full chest. Maybe he jokes about your favorite show being stupid, so you quietly stop watching it. Or maybe he raises an eyebrow when you wear bold lipstick, so you stick to neutral tones even when you miss your red-hot confidence. Ladies, hear me loud and clear. If you have to tone yourself down, dim your light, or morph into someone else just to keep his attention, then you're not in love, you're in performance mode. Psychologists warn that changing who you are to please someone leads to internal conflict, suppressed emotions, and emotional burnout. You might think you're creating harmony, but in reality, you're slowly disconnecting from your core identity. And when that happens, resentment builds like a slow-burning fire. And here's the kicker. The version of you he fell in love with? That wasn't the quiet, agreeable, edited version. It was the real, unfiltered, passionate, complex you. So ask yourself this honest question. Backhand index pointing right. Am I still the woman who laughs out loud at silly jokes, speaks my mind with confidence, and shows up fully as myself? Or, backhand index pointing right. Have I become someone quieter, smaller, and easier, just to be loved? Because love that asks you to change isn't love. It's control dressed up in charm. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll talk about the subtle ways women give up their boundaries, without even realizing it. Number 2. Never let him disrespect you. Let's be crystal clear. Love without respect isn't love. It's emotional manipulation wrapped in empty promises. Too many women confuse patience with tolerance for mistreatment. They hear things like, "You're too sensitive," or "I was just joking," when their feelings are hurt, and instead of standing up for themselves, they shrink down, hoping it won't happen again. But here's the harsh truth. A man who disrespects you once and faces no consequences will learn that disrespect is acceptable. And from there, it doesn't get better. It gets more subtle, more frequent, and more damaging. Let's talk about the little red flags that turn into major emotional bruises. He interrupts you constantly when you speak, dismissing your voice like it's background noise. He forgets important dates, but somehow always remembers when his favorite team plays. He belittles your dreams, calling them unrealistic or silly, while demanding your support for his. He jokes about your insecurities in front of others, and when you confront him, he flips the blame. Why are you always so dramatic? Sound familiar? Psychologists call this micro-disrespect, small, seemingly harmless behaviors that slowly chip away at your self-esteem. And the longer you stay silent, the more you start to internalize that silence. You begin to believe that your feelings don't matter, that maybe you are too sensitive, that love means accepting whatever he dishes out. But let me remind you of something powerful. Respect is not optional. It's not a bonus. It's not something you earn. It is the bare minimum requirement in a healthy relationship. A man who truly loves you will never raise his voice to intimidate you, will never mock your intelligence, and will never make you question your value. He will speak to you with kindness, even when he's angry. He will protect your dignity, especially when you're vulnerable. And most importantly, he will never let his ego come before your emotional safety. So ask yourself this. Backhand index pointing right, am I constantly explaining or defending my worth in this relationship? Because if the answer is yes, then you're not being loved, you're being tolerated, and that's not good enough for the woman you are. Draw the line early. The first time he crosses it, speak up. The second time, reconsider. Because every time you let disrespect slide, you teach him how little you expect. And you deserve so much more than crumbs of kindness in exchange for your whole heart. Number 3. Never be his bank account. Let's talk about something a lot of women are afraid to say out loud. I feel like I'm being used. When you're in love, it's easy to want to give your time, your energy, your support. And yes, even your money. You believe in him. You want to help him get back on his feet. You tell yourself he's just going through a rough patch, or it's only temporary. But weeks turn into months. And suddenly, you're not just his partner, you're his provider. Let's be honest, there's a big difference between helping a man and carrying him. Helping is when he's trying, working hard, showing up, doing his part. Carrying is when you're paying the bills, covering his rent, filling his fridge, buying his clothes. While he offers excuses, promises, and dreams that never quite become reality. And here's where it gets dangerous. The more you give, the more he expects. The more he expects, the less he appreciates. And before you know it, he's not even pretending to try anymore, because you've made it too easy not to. Psychology calls this a learned dependency. When someone gets used to relying on you financially without reciprocating effort, they begin to feel entitled to your resources. They stop seeing your generosity as love, and start seeing it as obligation. And you? You start to feel drained, unappreciated, and quietly resentful, but afraid to speak up, because now you've invested so much. But here's the thing. A man who truly loves you doesn't want to drain you. He wants to build with you. He wants to contribute, to pull his weight, to grow together as equals. Even if he's struggling financially, he'll still show effort. He'll still hustle. He won't let you carry the entire load while he plays video games all day or chases pipe dreams with no plan. And let's talk about self-worth for a second. You are not a safety net. You are not a loan officer. You are not responsible for financing someone else's potential while yours gets put on hold. So ask yourself this. Backhand index pointing right, when was the last time he offered to take care of you? Backhand index pointing right, does he step up when you're tired? Or does he always have a reason why he can't? Because love should feel like a partnership, not a paycheck. And remember, you can be generous. You can be loving. You can be supportive. But the moment you feel like you're being used, not valued, that's your sign. Love doesn't cost money. But being with the wrong person might cost you everything. Number 4. Never wait forever for him to change. How many nights have you cried yourself to sleep thinking, maybe next week he'll finally step up? Maybe next month he'll be the man I need him to be. You hold on to hope like it's a lifeline, remembering the good moments, the sweet words, the promises he made when things were falling apart. But here's a tough truth most women don't want to hear. Waiting for a man to change doesn't guarantee that he will. Only that you'll lose more of yourself while you wait. Maybe he keeps saying he'll quit drinking. Maybe he swears he'll get a job. Maybe he promises he'll start treating you better. After this, once that, when things calm down. But time passes. Excuses grow. And you stay stuck in a cycle of hope and heartbreak. Psychologists call this the sunk cost fallacy. It's the idea that because you've already spent so much time, energy, and love on someone, you must stick around, hoping it'll finally pay off. But time invested in the wrong person doesn't mean you owe them your future. It means you owe yourself a lesson. Let's be real. People don't change because you nag them. They don't change because you waited patiently. They change only when they're ready. And sadly, that moment may never come. And the more you wait, the more you compromise. You stop asking for more because you don't want to push him away. You lower your standards just to keep the peace. And eventually, you forget what real love is supposed to feel like. Because you've normalized almost love, half effort, and unfulfilled promises. So here's the question that cuts to the core. Backhand index pointing right: if nothing changes in 6 months, a year, 5 years, would you still want this relationship? Backhand index pointing right: are you in love with the man in front of you, or the potential of who he might become? Because holding on to potential is like hugging a ghost. It feels real at first, but the longer you cling, the colder it gets. You deserve someone who meets you where you are. Not someone who keeps you waiting on the edge of a someday that never arrives. Someone who doesn't just say, "I'll do better," but actually does better. Now, not later. So stop waiting for the storm to pass. You're not here to fix him. You're here to love and be loved in return. And if he can't rise to meet you where you are today, let him go. Your future isn't something to gamble on someone else's unwillingness to grow. Number 5. Never let him isolate you. This one isn't just a red flag. It's a siren blaring in the distance. Because when a man tries to isolate you from the people who love you, it's not about love. It's about control. At first it might seem innocent. He says your friends are a bad influence. He says your family doesn't understand your relationship. He makes you feel guilty for spending time with anyone who isn't him. And little by little, you start pulling away from the people who would actually tell you the truth. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with missed girls' nights. Then skipped phone calls to your mom. Then silence, because you're tired of defending your relationship to people who don't get it. But that's exactly the point. He doesn't want them to get it. He doesn't want you to hear their voices, because deep down, he knows if you heard them, you might start listening to yourself again. Psychologists call this coercive control. It's a common tactic in emotionally abusive relationships. The abuser slowly cuts you off from your support system, making you more dependent on him. For validation, for love, for even a sense of reality. And once you're alone, once he's the only voice in your life, he doesn't have to earn your trust anymore. He just has to own it. Think about this. Backhand index pointing right: has he ever said, "Why do you need them when you have me?" Backhand index pointing right: has he made you feel guilty for calling a friend or visiting family? Backhand index pointing right: has he painted everyone else as the villain, while he plays the misunderstood victim? These aren't random behaviors. They're part of a pattern. Because a healthy relationship doesn't demand isolation. It encourages connection. A man who truly loves you will want you surrounded by love, not locked in a cage he calls us. And here's the most dangerous part of isolation. You lose your mirror. You lose the people who reflect back your worth, who remind you who you are when the relationship makes you forget. Without them, his version of you starts to feel like the truth, even if it's full of lies. So if he's trying to cut off your circle, it's not because he loves you too much. It's because he fears what might happen when you remember who you were before him. Remember this. The people who love you, the real ones, don't try to control you. They don't ask you to choose between them and your friends. They don't treat your independence as a threat. They respect your space, your voice, your world. So reconnect with your people. Call your sister. Meet your best friend for coffee. Visit your parents. Because the moment you feel like you're becoming someone else's prisoner in the name of love, that's not love. That's manipulation. And you, my dear, were not made to shrink inside someone else's insecurities. You were made to thrive, to rise, and to be surrounded by a tribe that uplifts you. Number 6. Never apologize for having needs. Let's talk about something too many strong, smart, beautiful women have been conditioned to do. Apologize for simply being human. Do you hear yourself saying things like, "Sorry for being too sensitive. Sorry for needing reassurance. Sorry I got upset when you ignored me. Sorry I expected you to call." Stop. Right now. Because here's the truth. Your needs are not a burden. They're not too much. They're not something you have to minimize, shrink, or apologize for just to keep a man happy. In healthy relationships, your emotional needs aren't treated like inconveniences. They're treated like priorities. Psychologists say that emotional suppression, constantly silencing your own needs for the sake of peace, leads to anxiety, chronic resentment, and emotional burnout. And here's the dangerous part. The more you apologize for having needs, the more you teach him that your needs don't matter. You start tiptoeing around your feelings. You start accepting the bare minimum. You start convincing yourself that asking for respect, consistency, or communication is being needy. But let's get one thing clear. Wanting a text back? Not needy. Wanting emotional support when you're stressed? Not needy. Wanting time together? Not needy. It's called being in a relationship. Love is not a one-sided performance where you pretend to be low maintenance just to keep someone who doesn't want to show up for you. It's a partnership. And in a partnership, your voice matters. Your feelings matter. You matter. So if he rolls his eyes when you express something real, if he calls you dramatic for being hurt, if he says you're too emotional, just because you need connection, that's not love. That's manipulation disguised as masculinity. And you deserve better than that. Instead of saying, sorry, start saying, backhand index pointing right, this is important to me. Backhand index pointing right, I need to feel heard. Backhand index pointing right, this doesn't feel right. Because strong women don't shrink to keep the peace. They speak up to protect their peace. You have a right to your emotions. You have a right to your standards. You have a right to feel safe, respected, and supported in your relationship. So the next time you feel the urge to apologize for being too much, remember, the right man won't make you feel like you have to apologize for existing. He'll listen. He'll care. He'll show up. And if he won't, he's not your person. Number 7. Never stay if you're unhappy. This one might sting a little, but it's the truth so many women need to hear. Love is not supposed to hurt all the time. Yet far too often we stay. We stay in relationships that drain us. We stay in situations that dim our light. We stay with men who give us crumbs and call it a feast. Why? Because we're afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of letting go of the picture we painted in our minds. But here's the harsh reality. Staying unhappy doesn't protect your heart. It poisons it. You tell yourself, he'll change. It'll get better once we move in together. I just need to be more patient. But how many months, or years, have passed while you waited for happiness to arrive? Psychologists call this emotional bargaining. You trade your joy today for the possibility of joy tomorrow. But in doing so, you lose precious time. Time you'll never get back. And let's be honest, hope can be a beautiful thing. But it can also be a trap. If you constantly feel anxious, unseen, dismissed, unloved, or like you're walking on eggshells, if you cry more than you laugh, if you're trying harder than he is, and the weight of the relationship is always on your shoulders, that's not love. That's survival. And you weren't born to survive a relationship. You were born to thrive in one. Staying just because of history, or guilt, or fear of loneliness, only deepens the pain. Remember, there's a big difference between being alone and feeling lonely in a relationship. And if you're already feeling alone with someone by your side, then what exactly are you holding on to? True love feels like peace. It feels like partnership. It feels like safety, laughter, trust, and mutual effort. Not emotional exhaustion, silent suffering, and constant compromise of your happiness. So ask yourself the real question. If nothing changes, if he stays exactly the same, will you still be okay a year from now? If your answer is no, then it's time to stop surviving on potential and start choosing yourself. Because the strongest thing a woman can do is walk away. Not when she's out of love, but when she realizes that love alone is not enough. And please remember, leaving doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally decided your happiness matters too. Now, let's pause for a moment. Which of these 7 truths spoke directly to your heart? Was there one that made you say, that's me, or I've been through that? If so, you're not alone. So many women silently carry these burdens, thinking they're the only ones. But let me tell you this. Your story matters. Your healing matters. And your voice, it deserves to be heard. So share with me in the comments. What was your biggest takeaway from this video? I read every single one, and your words might just inspire or comfort another woman who's going through the same thing. If this video gave you clarity, strength, or even just a moment of, wow, I needed this, then do something powerful with it. Speech balloon, leave a comment. Red heart, hit that like button. Loudspeaker, share this video with a friend, a sister, or anyone who needs this message. Bell, and don't forget to subscribe, because this channel is your space for real, raw, and honest relationship advice, rooted in psychology, experience, and love. And one last thing, from me to you. You are not too much. You are not too needy. You are not hard to love. You are simply someone who deserves the kind of love you've always tried to give to others. Don't settle. Don't shrink. Don't wait for someone to choose you. Start choosing you, today. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay soft, and stay beautifully, unapologetically you. Dizzy.